A violent shooting occurred in northern Jerusalem, claiming 6 lives. This incident highlights the fragile security landscape as international mediators push for a ceasefire in Gaza. We see that the attack, claimed as an act of resistance by Palestinian militants, but not directly owned by any group, underscores how violence on multiple fronts continues to undermine efforts led by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt to halt the war in Gaza. Now, even as negotiators press Hamas to accept a truce proposal, the bloodshed in Israel and the West Bank signals the deep mistrust and volatility that could derail any deal. Now, can a deal in Gaza hold if unrest spreads across Israel and the occupied territories? A critical question right there. But then taking your attention over to Nepal. In Nepal, Nepal's prime minister has just resigned following the anti-corruption protest. But then as we delve into the details, this and many more will be explored into today's Flash News. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Tabitha Akro. Let's begin. At least 6 people were killed and 12 others injured on Monday when 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop in northern Jerusalem, according to Israeli officials. An Israeli soldier and a civilian shot dead the attackers at the scene. The assault, which occurred during the morning rush hour, was the deadliest in Israel since October 2024, when a mass shooting on a Tel Aviv light rail killed 7. Let's take a look.
שאנחנו במלחמה עצימה בכמה חזיתות, יש לנו כמובן הצלחות אדירות נגד משטרי הטרור, נגד ארגוני הטרור, אבל המלחמה נמשכת גם ברצועת עזה, שבה נחריב את החמאס, כפי שהבטחנו ונשחרר את חטופינו, כל חטופינו, ולצערנו גם בירושלים. ביהודה ושומרון פעלנו בתקיפות רבה מאוד, השב"כ וצה"ל סיכלו מאות, וגם משטרת ישראל, סיכלו מאות פיגועים השנה. אבל לצערנו לא בבוקר הזה. אנחנו עכשיו במרדף, בכיתור של הכפרים שמהם באו המרצחים, ואנחנו נשיג את כל מי שסייע באדם, כל מי ששילח אותם, ואנחנו ננקוט בצעדים קשים עוד יותר. אני רוצה לומר בצורה הכי ברורה, הרציחות הללו, הפיגועים הללו, בכל הגזרות, הם לא מרפים את ידינו, הם רק מגדילים את הנחישות שלנו. להשלים את המשימות שלקחנו על עצמנו. גם בעזה, גם ביהודה ושומרון, בכל מקום. אנחנו נלחמים בטרור, במשטר הטרור של החות'ים, באיראן שמגבה את כולם, בעזה, בלבנון, בחיזבאללה, בכל הגזרות. אנחנו לא מרפים וגם לא נרפה. אנחנו נעצים את הפעולות שלנו, ואנחנו נשיג את כל המטרות שלנו.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, right there, as you've just seen, visited the site hours after the attack and pledged a strong response. He said security forces were encircling Palestinian villages near Ramallah in search of those who assisted the attacks. The shooting comes amid a surge of violence linked to the ongoing war in Gaza. Palestinian militants have carried out deadly assaults in Israel and the West Bank, while settler violence against Palestinians has also increased. Hamas praised the attack but stopped short of claiming responsibility, describing it as a reaction to Israeli actions in Gaza and the West Bank. Meanwhile, according to United Nations data, at least 49 Israelis have been killed by Palestinians in Israel and the West Bank since the war began, while Israeli forces and civilians have killed more than 960 Palestinians during the same period. Now, footage from the scene, as you've just seen, showed dozens of people fleeing in panic, with paramedics reporting shattered glass and wounded victims lying unconscious on the road and sidewalks. Netanyahu's, whose corruption trial was delayed due to the incident, said Israel faces a war on multiple fronts, and he vowed to continue military operations in Gaza, the West Bank, and beyond. Hundreds of security personnel were deployed across Jerusalem following the attack, with searches continuing for possible accomplices or explosive. Now, this is what is happening in Israel, Jerusalem to be precise. Now, I'm taking you over still within the Israel and Hamas ceasefire. Qatar's Prime Minister has urged Hamas to consider the latest U.S. ceasefire proposal during a meeting in Doha, according to an official familiar with the discussions. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Jazim Al Thani met with Hamas negotiator Khalil al-Hayya on Monday to review the plan. Hamas confirmed it had received the proposal, which includes steps toward a comprehensive ceasefire. Israel has said it has given the plan serious consideration. But what are their considerations? Then we'll get to know right as the news progresses. The proposal calls for the release of all 48 hostages on the first day of the ceasefire, with Israel releasing thousands of Palestinian prisoners in return. Under the deal, Israel and Hamas would begin immediate negotiations for a permanent end to the conflict. Fighting would remain suspended as long as talks continues, with U.S. President Donald Trump also providing guarantees to uphold the truce. Now we see that just after that, the coming days were seen as critical for advancing the proposal. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum welcomed the U.S. initiative, describing it as a potential breakthrough and urging Israel to support the deal until all hostages are returned. So what about Israel? Has Israel accepted the deal? Let's get to know.
President Trump said it clearly yesterday. Israel said yes to his proposal. We are ready to accept a full deal that would end the war based on the cabinet decision. Two things must happen. One, the return of our hostages. We still have 48 hostages kidnapped from their homes on October 7th, being held in Gaza today. Second thing, Hamas must lay down its arms. Immediately after landing in Budapest, I received terrible news from our country. This morning there was a horrific terror attack in our capital, Jerusalem. 2 Palestinian terrorists murdered Jews on buses at the remote junction in the entrance to Jerusalem. So far, 6 Israelis have been killed. There are many, many injured, including pregnant women. Every country must now make a clear choice. Are they on Israel's side or are they on the side of the jihadists?
Israel has accepted the proposal, but then for weeks, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delayed responding to any earlier ceasefire plan mediated by Qatar and Egypt, which Hamas had accepted. Now, that deal outlined a 60-day truce in exchange for the release of 28 hostages. Netanyahu, however, later insisted on a comprehensive agreement rather than partial agreement. Now we see that ceasefire talks are on and hostages need to be released. And in the middle of this, we are still having attacks from Palestine and the situation in Gaza. We see that Netanyahu's ceasefire proposal plan is non-negotiable at this time. Accepting the U.S. proposal could mean maybe a favor for them or most probably for Hamas, but who knows? The coming days will definitely justify that. And we see that on the other hand, Hamas still looks forward to a permanent agreement in exchange for hostages. And the U.S. Let's take a look.
Trying to get it ended, get the hostages back, get it ended. We got them all back, but 20. And as you know, we have 20, plus there are a lot of, unfortunately, dead bodies involved. And they want them back. The parents want them back. So we had some very good discussions. Good things could happen. I think we're going to have a deal on Gaza very soon. It's a hell of a problem.
What gives
Again, it's a problem we want to solve for the Middle East, for Israel, for everybody. But it's a problem we're going to get done. So they have hostages. It could be a little bit less than 20 because they tend to die, right? They tend to die. Even though they're young people largely, they're dying. Young people don't die. Young people stay alive. But with this whole thing, they tend to die. but we have, let's say, 20 people, and we have about 38 bodies. Bodies, meaning bodies.
Are you confident you can get them all released?
Yeah, I think so.
President Trump is confident he will get them all out, and the ceasefire deal will definitely take a hold. But then taking your attention over to Thailand. Thailand's Supreme Court on Tuesday ordered former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra to serve a one-year prison term, ruling that his extended hospital stay during a previous sentence was unlawful. Thaksin, who is 76 age, a billionaire and one of Thailand's most polarizing political figures, led the country from 2001 until he was toppled in a 2006 military coup. He returned from self-imposed exile in 2023 after 15 years abroad and was sentenced to 8 years in prison on charges of corruption, abuse of power, and conflict of interest. Despite the sentence, Thaksin avoided prison confinement and spent months in a luxury hospital suite, citing health issues. His term was later reduced to 1 year by King Maha Vajiralongkorn, and he was released on parole in February 2024. Now, we'll see that on Tuesday, the Supreme Court ruled that his hospital stay did not count as time served, ordering him to be taken to Bangkok remand prison. Footage showed a convoy transporting him to the facility shortly after the verdict. Now, the case has failed criticism that Thaksin, who once owned Manchester City Football Club, received preferential treatment. Two doctors who certified his hospital detention have since been suspended, falsifying medical documents, while a prison doctor was formally cautioned. Analysts say Thaksin's return to Thailand was part of a broader political bargain with the country's conservative and royalist elite. Coinciding with his family's political party regaining power, he has denied striking any deal as regarding these. Now, the ruling comes amid broader setbacks for the Shinawatra dynasty. Thaksin's daughter, former Prime Minister Pitongtern Shinawatra, was ousted by the Constitutional Court in August over an ethics scandal involving leaked communications with Cambodia's former leader. Over the past 2 decades, the Shinawatras have dominated Thai politics, winning nearly every election since 2001, only to face repeated removals through coups and court rulings. With Pitongtern's removal and Thaksin's renewed imprisonment, observers say the family's once powerful political machine is losing influence. Thailand recently installed its third prime minister in 2 years, veteran politician Anutin Chanvarakul, who assumed office last week after securing parliamentary approval and royal endorsement. Well, this is a developing story, and we'll definitely bring you up to speed with the details as they unfold. Now, taking you over to Africa, East Africa, in Ethiopia. Ethiopia on Tuesday, this is a breaking report and a congratulatory one, we would say, for Africa, inaugurated the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam Guard, Africa's largest hydroelectric project, pressing ahead with a $5 billion development seen as vital for its energy needs, but fiercely opposed by downstream Egypt. With a population of 120 million, Ethiopia has long argued that the project will transform its economy by generating more than 5,000 MW of electricity and supplying power to millions of citizens, many of whom remain off the grid. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has pledged that surplus energy will be exported to neighboring countries. Take a look.
Soon, we will inaugurate the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a continental symbol of self-reliance, unity, and clean energy. It will provide over 5,000 megawatts of renewable power, lightening the way to fair energy for Ethiopia and East Africa. We are advancing our national clean cooking roadmap. It will free millions of households from smoke-filled kitchens and ease the daily burdens, especially for women. And we are phasing out fossil fuel transport, reducing emissions while creating more healthy cities.
Construction of the dam began in 2011 and has been a source of regional tension ever since. Egypt, which relies on the Nile for about 90% of its fresh water, fears the project could reduce water flows during droughts and undermine its agricultural lifeline. Cairo has cited colonial-era treaties and framed the GERD as a potential existential threat. Sudan, while sharing Egypt's concern, has also acknowledged possible benefits such as improved flood control and cheaper energy. Now we see that when the situation unfolded, the United States attempted to mediate during Donald Trump's first term but failed to secure an agreement. Ethiopia proceeded with phased reservoir filling beginning in 2020. Maintaining that the dam would not significantly harm downstream nations. Independent studies so far indicate no major disruptions in water flow, aided by favorable rainfall and gradual filling. Domestically, the GERD has become a unifying symbol for Ethiopia, which has endured years of conflict. Funded largely through domestic resources, 91% by the central bank and 9% by citizens via bonds and donations. The project has strengthened Addis Ababa's assertion of sovereignty. The reservoir now covers an area larger than Greater London, with the government promising benefits for hydropower, irrigation, and climate resistance. Yet, challenges remain. Roughly half of Ethiopia's rural population is still not connected to the national grid. Relations between Ethiopia and Egypt have further soured in recent years, complicated by Addis Ababa's pursuit of sea access through Eritrea or Somalia, moves that Cairo views with suspicion. Now we see that the GERD's launch marks a milestone for Ethiopia's development ambitions, but leaves unresolved one of Africa's most enduring geopolitical disputes. Whether the dam becomes a driver of regional cooperation or conflict will depend on the willingness of Ethiopia, Egypt, and even Sudan to move from confrontation to compromise. Now, in a breaking story, in Nepal, a situation is ongoing, a protest is ongoing, and what's the reason? Anti-corruption, social media ban. We see that police in Kathmandu opened fire on demonstrators protesting against corruption, and a government ban on social media, killing at least 17 people and injuring more than 145 according to authorities. Health officials said many of the wounded suffered gunshot injuries to the head and chest. The unrest erupted after tens of thousands of people, many of them young Nepalese, marched on parliament to oppose the government's decision to block platforms including Facebook, X, and YouTube. Authorities justified the ban by accusing the companies of failing to register and comply with state oversight. The government has also introduced a bill in parliament that would require social media companies to establish a licensing office in Nepal, which critics say is an attempt to tighten censorship and silence dissent. I believe a lot of people's business thrive on social media. Rights groups have condemned the measure as a violation of free expression. Protesters broke through barricades and surrounded the parliament building, forcing riot police to retreat. Security forces initially used tear gas and water cannons, but later resorted to live ammunition. Now take a look. Could this be a reformation, or we would say this is the people determining what belongs to them? In response, the government imposed a curfew around Parliament, the Presidential Palace, and other key sites in the capital. Smaller protests continued into the evening despite the restrictions, keeping tensions high in the city. Should the rights to freedom of expression be considered? The government would need to look into that. And still on a right within the situation, the Prime Minister has just resigned also. I think this could be another reason why Africa needs to take caution when making policies. But then until next time, this is where I'll be drawing the curtain on today's Flash News. Remember, I'll bring you on with stories from the home front and Undaunted at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. Until then, stay tuned.